It has been an explosive 24 to 48 hours in regards to two coaches who I know quite well departing San Jose, Mark Watson, Nick Dasovic out, Dominic Kinnear in. Did you see this coming first off?
Oh yeah. As soon as the report surfaced at the end of September that Houston had given San Jose permission to interview Dominic, it was a done deal at that point. When you have a general manager who grew up with a coach in the East Bay of San Francisco, these guys played together as kids. They've already made the agreement ahead of time. They just had to go through the formalities. So I kept telling people on Twitter and fans who were asking, quit speculating. It's over. The train's left the station.
Elliott, I didn't like the way this went down, though. I got a lot of respect for all three gentlemen. As a matter of fact, before Canada hired its national team coach in Benito Floro, I was begging people at the Canadian Soccer Association to try and get Dominic Kinnear. That's how much I highly value this gentleman, and also Nick Dasovic and Mark Watson. But the way it went down, I just thought it was real disrespectful in many ways. Am I off on that?
No, you're not off at all. In fact, it gets a little worse from my point of view as a reporter who has to cover. I'm in the middle of it, trying to cover the news of the team. And let me just give you guys an example. Mark Watson really was up there twisting in the wind, talking to me and the other beat reporters, about it. And he was so professional. You know him. You're not surprised by that. He just gets on with his business. But while he's standing up there as the only guy in the team talking about it, for a couple weeks, it just really seems unfair. The Quakes management, their hands were tied. The news broke out of Houston. The Quakes aren't, these aren't bad people. They understand that. They wouldn't throw their guy under a bus even if they were getting rid of him. Not to defend one or point fingers at the other. It's just the way it came down. And then last night was just awful because of Mark and Nick's last game. And then just an hour before the game starts, the Chronicle had, the story again out of Houston, saying that they agreed to terms. And there's Mark. And then the team, they closed the locker room. There was no media availability in the post game. Which was an unprecedented move, and I tweeted that, and fans were in an uproar, and then they had to react to that. When I say they, I mean the team had to react to that, and they came back to the press box and said, who do you want to talk to? We'll make players available on the field to talk about the game. So it was a San Jose mess.
Elliott, let me ask you this. Does Dominic Kinnear, obviously he knows what he's getting into here, does he realize that he's not going to have the weapons at his disposal as he's had with Houston last number of years, that is going to be a massive challenge for him to really rebuild that team? I mean, we know that Chris Wondolowski is a wonderful World Cup player, but we also know that there's a lot of holes that need to be addressed there, especially in the midfield in the number of games that I watched San Jose play this year.
I think you can look at it in two ways, or maybe there's multi-dimensions here, Anthony. For starters, we know that Dominic comes in with his eyes open. As a close friend of John Doyle, I'm sure they talked privately, and I'm sure Dominic was giving John advice on what he might do here and there. So he knows this team intimately. He knows its ups and downs, particularly the downs. So again, he's coming in with his eyes wide open. And then another side of this, maybe he needs a challenge like this. It's been 9 years where it's been pretty darn stable in Houston. He's got a new stadium. There's a lot to look forward to, and he can reshape San Jose, where, the South Bay or the Bay Area where he grew up. He can reshape his hometown team and put his mark on it in an incredible way, and that might be something he wants to do. Maybe it's a new challenge. It's not going to come overnight. And the third thing that I would say, just about off your comments, there's some really good pieces that they brought in this year. This Argentine midfielder, striker midfielder, attacking player, Matias Perez Garcia, is terrific. He comes in, he looks fantastic, and then he has a tear in his leg. He has a knee injury and is out suddenly. I mean, that sort of summarizes the entire Earthquake season. So there's a lot of good pieces here, but there's a rebuilding that needs to be done as well.
Let me ask you this, Elliott, just before we let you go. We really appreciate your time. What have the players said now that this has become official? Have you had an opportunity to speak to some of the veterans on the team to say how they felt about all this going down? Are they, okay with it? Did they see it coming? Do they now understand that they're going to have an MLS champion coach taking over and they're good with that? What did you hear from the players?
Well, again, I'll reiterate this. So this all happened within 24 hours or less at this point. The team management closed the locker room for the first time in my 7 years with the team. So there was no post-game availability. We talked to Tommy Thompson, a rookie, a 19-year-old kid who got his first goals, Earthquakes. We talked to him about the game. He didn't ask him about coaching change. I don't think his opinion is that. He hasn't been around long enough to have some insight into that. There was no media availability today. There was really no practice today after the game last night. So tomorrow would be the first chance to find out. But sorry I'm making this long-winded. We did talk to players, or at least I talked to players, some of the veteran players over the past couple weeks when this seemed inevitable. And right now players were playing for their livelihood and their jobs, and I think they were more concerned about that than coaching changes. But I think they also saw the signals loud and clear and knew there was going to be a lot of changes, including potentially a coach. Right now, I think Wando's probably safe. Dom loves Wando, and a couple of these other guys probably safe. But I think otherwise all bets are off, and people are probably very nervous.